Okay, guys, welcome back to Math with Mr. Miller. I'm going to be going through some of the different ways that we represent our data sets using diagrams and things, which can be really helpful for when you're going to write your IA and analyzing all the data that you might gather. So the first one that we've got here are histograms, and they get frequently confused with bar charts. And so we've got a little diagram here that kind of goes through the differences between them. When it comes to a histogram, it's typically done with numerical data. And the key thing there is that these little data ranges or data sets are little ranges. So like that first bar here represents 0 to 5. Second bar here represents 5 to 10. And that the area of that bar is what is proportional to your data. And we call those little ranges there bins. And the other key thing there is we don't typically have gaps between our data. A lot of the numerical data sets that we typically look at can be things like heights, time, that sort of deal. Versus when it comes to a bar chart, the data is considered categorical. Now, I do want to clarify that those categories can technically be numbers, depending on the kind of data you're looking at. Something, an example might be like shoe size. Um, and so with that categorical data, most commonly it's things like colors or sports. And when you're totaling up how many people are interested in those in sports, you might do a bar chart to represent with the different sports as your categories at the bottom. And then the length is really what is proportional to our data. That length represents how many people fall into that category. And we'll do an example on the next page of where we create one of these two diagrams. For a box and whisker plot, it can be super helpful for when we're looking at the five-number summary that you get from a data set. And that five-number summary was the mean, the lower quartile, the median, the upper quartile, and the maximum. And so once you have your data set, you can use your calculator to find those five different things, and then we can represent it in a box and whisker plot. It's really easy to view and get all of the information out of, especially when it comes to your IA. There is another type of box and whisker plot, and that's when we have the outliers represented on the box and whisker, and those outliers are typically represented with little crosses. And what changes is that in the original box and whisker plot, the whiskers here extend to the minimum and maximum values of your data set. But when it comes to when you put the outliers on your box and whisker plot as crosses, the whisker now extends to the lowest possible value that's not an outlier in your data set. And so, for example, if you find out that anything lower than 34, but let's say in your data set, anything is lower than 34 is considered an outlier, then our minimum whisker would extend out to 34. Okay. If you need to copy any of this down, feel free to pause the video. I'm going to go ahead and move on to an example of doing both of these on the next screen. When it comes to creating a histogram or a bar chart, you want to make sure that you title your histogram. So in this case, frequency of shoe sizes. And this goes for any of your diagrams that you put in your IA or in when you're writing up for your exam. You want to make sure all of your diagrams and graphs and things are all titled. And then you want to make sure to label the axes. So my vertical axes here would represent our frequency. And then my horizontal axis here would actually be our shoe size. And since I don't have intervals for my shoe sizes, this is likely going to be more of a bar chart than it is going to be a histogram. And so what I'm going to do is now at 3, I'm going to go ahead and add in my little frequency there. So my bar is going to go up to 3 and down. 4 is going to go to 5 on my bar chart. 5 is going to go all the way up to 10, and so on and so forth. You can fill in kind of the rest there. Okay, almost there. And there would be my bar chart. And what's really easy to get out of these histograms and bar charts is you can really easily see the mode. Okay, and that's because it's going to be our tallest um, bar there. So our tallest one here that I'm highlighting in red, that's going to represent my mode. So my mode in this case would be a shoe size of 5. Okay, we can also see the range. We're just going to take the furthest left and the furthest right. There's 3. So for my range, I can also see my range here must be 5 because I have 8 is my max, 3 is my minimum values. I do have the 3-number summary for this data set already over here on the left. So I've got my min 3, Q1 5, median 6, Q3 7, and our max is 8. Okay, and I found that by just using my um, calculator to find that 5-number summary using a spreadsheet on my calculator. So I can go ahead and build my box and whisker plot for this data. Same thing as with the histogram. I want to make sure I title it, and I want to make sure that I label that axis there. Now, unfortunately, I've not left myself a whole lot of room, so I'm going to kind of write it off to the side. But my title, I can just make it 5-number summary. Okay. Probably want to make it a little bit more specific, but this will work for the purpose of this example. And then shoe sizes there on my axes. And I'm going to go ahead. You can kind of number it however your axis needs. If you need to make it more spread out, really just kind of depends on your data. All my values kind of are pretty close together here. Um, so mine, I can just increase by ones if you need to increase by twos, fives, tens, whatever you need really for your data set. And in this case, there really is no horizontal axis because we aren't looking um, two-dimensionally here. We really just care where these numbers fall in the number line. For my minimum, I'm going to go ahead and put my median in first. That's the easiest to build my box. I'm going to put vertical line at 6. I'm going to put in my Q1 and my Q3. Okay. And so then I can connect all 3 of those lines. So there's the box that represents my quartiles. And then I'm going to go ahead and add in my whisker for my minimum at 3. And I'm going to add in my whisker for my maximum at 8. Okay. And what this box and whisker plot then lets us do is we can talk about, is our data super symmetrical? Is it compared to maybe another box and whisker plot that would be drawn in? Is one whisker longer than the other? That sort of thing. And then we can also get really easily our min Q1, median Q3, maximum directly from that visual. In this particular case, I probably wouldn't worry about outliers just because for a lot of these values, they have a, a few of them there, as well as my Q1 and Q3 are pretty close together and they're not too far off from the minimum and maximum values that it's highly unlikely any of them are going to be outliers, but we can check if we want to just by using our formula because I can get my interquartile range here. My IQR is going to be 7 minus 5. It's going to give me 2. And so then if I take my Q1 minus my IQR times 1.5, that's going to give me 2 as the lowest possible value that I could have. I don't have any shoe sizes lower than 3, so that's all good. Same thing for my upper quartile, 7 plus 2 times 1.5. That's going to give me 10. Well, I don't have any values, shoe sizes greater than 8, so no outliers in this data set. So I wouldn't have to worry about plotting those on my graph or on my diagram. Okay. I'm sure throughout the year we'll continue to practice these. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in class. Typically, when it comes to the box and whisker plot, if you're asked to draw one, you can assume you don't need to show the outliers unless it specifically states for you to do so, or if you found them already. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. More than happy to help anytime. Otherwise, have a great day, everyone. Thanks for watching.